Clara, 38 years old, was molding a piece of ceramics in her studio in Alfama, Lisbon, while the light from the Tagus stream came through the window. The aroma of clay mixed with the distant sound of fado. Married for 10 years to Miguel, 44, a charismatic sommelier, she lived a fairy tale, a house overlooking the river, nights of Albarino wine, and promises of a future with children. But something changed. Miguel arrived late, with a sweet perfume that wasn't hers, and his smiles were vague, more focused on the phone than on her. Clara tried to ignore the coldness, but her heart felt cracks. One day, while cleaning the studio, Miguel called. "Clara, I want to have a party at home today. I invited some friends from the restaurant. Can you prepare something?" he said, his voice light. "Party?" She frowned. "You never do that." "Who's coming?" "Just colleagues, love. It'll be good, relax," he replied, laughing. Clara hesitated, but saw the party as a chance to rekindle the flame. He spent the afternoon preparing snacks: cod pastries, mountain cheese, seasoned olives. She wore a blue dress that hugged her figure, her hair loose, wanting to remind Miguel of the woman who enchanted him at a Santos Populares festival. But when she found a pearl earring in his coat pocket, one that wasn't hers, doubt grew like a shadow. The house, decorated with candles and tiles, was filled with music. Miguel arrived with 3 friends. Tomás, 40 years old, a man who laughs easily. Inés, 35 years old, a woman with penetrating eyes and black hair. And Rafael, 42 years old, reserved with discreet charm. Clara smiled, but noticed Inés's glances at Miguel, full of an intimacy that bothered her. I would like to take a brief break to ask for your like and subscription to the channel. You are helping us a lot with this simple gesture. And I would like to know which city you serve us from. Miguel, what a beautiful house, said Inés, touching his arm. You always had good taste. Clara poured the wine, forcing a smile, but the tension grew. Why did Inés seem so at ease? And why didn't Miguel move her hand away? The party vibrated with laughter and clinking glasses, but Clara's restlessness grew. The house in Alfama, heated by candles, seemed like a stage for secrets. She watched Inés lean into Miguel, her laughter too loud, her hand lingering on his wrist as she praised his wine choices. Miguel, this Alvarinho is divine, said Inés, her eyes fixed on him. You always know how to impress. Thanks, Inés. You're too kind, Miguel replied, with an intimate smile, without moving away. Clara's chest tightened. She poured more wine, her hands steady but her mind in turmoil. He tried to join the conversation, asking Tomás about his travels and Rafael about his taste in jazz. But his eyes kept returning to Miguel and Inés. Tomás, already a little drunk, told a funny story about a mistake at the restaurant, making everyone laugh, except Clara, who forced a smile. Rafael, more silent, noticed his tension. Everything okay, Clara? He asked, his voice soft. Just tired, she lied, showing a smile. Getting paid is hard work. Clara went to the kitchen to get more olives, needing a moment to breathe. The tiles gleamed cold in the light. Then, he heard Inés's voice in the hallway, low and provocative. Miguel, you're terrible at keeping secrets. When are you going to tell her? Inés laughed, mischievously. Clara froze, her heart racing. Tell what? She approached, hidden by the door. Calm down, Inés. Clara is too busy with the ceramics to notice, Miguel whispered, his tone dismissive. Everything is under control. Words hit her like a punch. Clara gripped the counter, breathing shallowly. Were they talking about an affair? He wanted to storm the hallway, demand answers, but his feet got stuck. She returned to the living room, her face composed, and placed the olives on the table, her eyes fixed on Miguel's carefree smile. The night progressed, and Inez danced, to the sound of fado, her movements fluid, attracting Miguel's gaze. Clara felt invisible. She noticed Rafael watching her, his face unreadable, while Tomas, oblivious, sang. The room spun with wine and lies. "Clara, come dance," called Tomas, waving. She hesitated, then relented, moving slightly, her mind distant. Inez turned closer to Miguel, whispering something that made him laugh. Clara's anger boiled. "You weren't going to let this go. Not in your house." Fado music echoed in the Alfama house, but for Clara the sound was just background noise. His eyes followed Inez, who danced with grace, her black hair shining in the candlelight, while Miguel watched her, mesmerized. Every laugh from Inez was a stab, and the words Clara had heard in the hallway. "When are you going to tell her?" spun around in his mind like an out-of-control merry-go-round. She needed to act, but how? Clara walked away from the dance, saying she was going to get more wine. In the kitchen, the weight of betrayal suffocated her. He picked up a bottle, but his hands were shaking so much he almost dropped it. Then he heard footsteps. Inez entered, a sweet smile on her lips, but her eyes were sharp. "Clara, you are an incredible host," said Inez, her voice mellifluous. "Miguel is lucky." "Thank you," Clara replied, forcing a neutral tone. "How did you meet Miguel, Inez?" Inez hesitated, her smile wavering. "At the restaurant, a few months ago. He talks a lot about you, says you're dedicated, but sometimes distracted." "Distracted?" Clara arched her eyebrow, the blood rising. "Did he say that?" Inez shrugged, leaving with a giggle. Clara stood still, her anger growing. Distracted? She, who supported Miguel in everything. He returned to the room, his heart racing, and then the trigger came. While he was pouring wine, he heard Inez whisper to Miguel so quietly that he almost escaped. "Don't you think Clara will understand? We've done this so many times." Clara spilled the wine, the red stain spreading across the tablecloth like blood. Miguel replied, his voice muffled. "She trusts me, Inez. You won't notice." Clara's world collapsed. It wasn't just distrust. It was truth. The betrayal, there, in your home, before your eyes. She wiped off the wine, muttering, "I'm sorry," and went to the bathroom, locking the door. In the mirror, he saw a woman he didn't recognize. Eyes red, but determined. She wouldn't be the naive wife Miguel thought she would be. Back in the room, Clara has changed. He smiled at Tomas and Rafael, his voice softer, almost seductive. "Tomas, Rafael, tell me something interesting," she said, bowing slightly, her blue dress catching the light. Tomas laughed, surprised. "Wow, Clara, you're excited now?" Rafael looked at her, intrigued, but replied, talking about a jazz show. Clara listened, but her eyes were on Miguel, who was frowning. She got up, pulling Tomas to dance. "Come on, Tomas, show me how it's done," he said, laughing, his movements looser. Tomas, excited, held her hand, spinning her. Held her hand. Clara danced closer, leaving his hand on her waist. feeling Miguel's eyes burn. Rafael joined in hesitantly, and Clara smiled at him provocatively. "Rafael, don't be left out," he whispered, his voice heavy. Michael stood up, his face tense. "Clara, what are you doing?" She stopped, looking at him, her smile cold. "Just having fun, love. Isn't that what you do with Inés?" The room fell silent, Fado as the only track. Clara felt the weight of the moment, but also a strange relief. The truth was out in the open, and she wouldn't back down. The silence in the Alfama room was dense, broken only by the lament of Fado. Clara stared at Miguel, whose face was a mixture of shock and anger. Inés, pale, opened her mouth, but Clara raised her hand, cutting her off. "No, Inés. No more pretending," Clara said, her voice firm but shaking with emotion. "I heard everything. How many times, Miguel? How many times have you made me look like a fool? Clara, are you crazy?" Miguel took a step, his voice loud. "It's not what you think." "Don't lie," she replied, her eyes shining. "She won't notice." That's what he said. Well, I noticed. Tomas and Rafael exchanged uncomfortable glances. Tomas mumbled something about leaving, but Clara interrupted him, her tone soft but cutting. "Stay. You are not the ones who should be ashamed." She turned to Miguel, each word a weight lifted from her. 10 years, Miguel. I supported your dreams, your endless shifts, and you exchanged me for this? He pointed to Inés, who lowered her gaze. Miguel tried to hold her arm. "Clara, let's talk alone." She broke free. "No, the time for hiding is over." Clara left the room, going up to the bedroom. He locked the door and slid against it, the tears finally falling. The house, once a refuge, now seemed like a maze of lies. She thought of the young woman who met Miguel at a St. John's party, falling in love with his confident manner. Where was that Clara? In the mirror, he saw dark circles under his eyes, but also determination. It would no longer be Miguel's shadow. He picked up a suitcase, throwing clothes inside, each piece a step away from freeing himself. Down below, he heard muffled voices, Miguel arguing with Inés. Clara went downstairs, bag in hand. "Clara, please," said Miguel, his eyes pleading. "It was a mistake. Give me a chance." She stopped, her heart sinking, but her anger won. "You had too many chances. I was the one who made a mistake, for trusting you." Rafael approached, hesitantly. "Clara, do you need something? A place to stay?" "Thank you, Rafael, but I'll manage," she replied, her voice calmer. Clara stepped outside, the fresh air of Lisbon enveloping her. He walked to Chiado, where a friend, Marta, had an apartment. Marta welcomed her without questions, offering tea and a sofa. That night, Clara looked at the Tagus from the window, reflecting. The betrayal hurt, but it had also woken her up. She wanted to be more than the betrayed wife. She wanted to be Clara, whole. In the studio, days later, he molded a new piece, a vase with golden cracks, like the marks it carried. He decided he would sell, but not the house. It was hers, not Miguel's. Let him leave. "I'm going to rebuild my life," he said to Marta, his tone decided. "But first, I'll make sure he feels the weight of this." The Lisbon breeze blew cold through, the streets of Chiado when Clara decided to return to her house in Alfama, a week after the party. The studio, now her sanctuary, smelled of clay and hope. But she knew she needed to face Miguel one last time. The anger still burned, but now mixed with a new clarity. She didn't just want revenge, she wanted freedom. Clara arranged a meeting with Miguel at the house, saying they would discuss the separation. He arrived, his face tired, his hands restless. The room, with its tiles still shining in the late afternoon light, seemed smaller, suffocating. "Clara, I made a mistake," Miguel began, his voice hoarse. "Inés was a weakness. Forgive me, please." Clara looked at him, her heart racing. Part of her wanted to believe, to remember the happy years, the nights dancing fado together. But then she saw the pearl earring in her memory, Inés's laughter, and the truth anchored her. "It's not about forgiving, Miguel," she said, her voice firm. "It's about me, deserving more." She walked to the table, where she left a folder with divorce papers, prepared by a lawyer Marta had appointed. But before handing it over, Clara played her trump card, not a provocative dance, but something more cutting. During the week, he had spoken to Tomás, who, unintentionally, let it slip that Miguel not only cheated with Inés, but had used the restaurant for secret meetings, spending the couple's money. "Tomás told me everything," said Clara, her eyes fixed on Miguel. "You used our money to fund your cases. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Miguel turned pale, stuttering. "Clara, that's not... I can explain." "No need," she said, throwing a bank statement on the table, copies of which she had obtained from her lawyer. "You not only betrayed me, but you stole from me. This ends now." The tension exploded. Miguel shouted, trying to justify himself. But Clara remained, cold, his every word only reinforcing her decision. She opened the door, pointing outside. "Get out of my house, Miguel, and don't come back." He hesitated, his eyes teary, but Clara's stance was unshakable. Miguel took his coat and left, the sound of his footsteps echoing on the stone street. Clara locked the door, her heart racing, but a wave of relief washed over her. The house was hers again, and so was she. Outside, the Tagus reflected the city's lights, and Clara felt for the first time in months that she was breathing free. But a doubt remained. Tomás had mentioned another name, someone other than Inés. Who else had Miguel hidden? Clara stood, still in the Alfama living room, the silence of the house now a relief, not a threat. The locked door sealed Miguel's departure, and with it, a decade of broken promises. She walked to the window, the Tagus shining in the Lisbon lights, and let the tears fall, not of sadness, but of liberation. Miguel's betrayal had broken her, but it had also rebuilt her, stronger. In the following days, Clara took the reins. He handed the divorce papers to the lawyer, ensuring that Miguel would take nothing more than his share. The house, with its tiles and memories, remained with her, now a symbol of her independence. In her studio, in Chiado, she created a series of ceramics with golden cracks, inspired by the Japanese art of kintsugi, the beauty of scars. Each piece sold was a step forward. "You look different," said Marta, having coffee with Clara, in a square in Barro Alto. "More live." "I got lost for so long," Clara admitted, her gaze steady. "Now, I am the one who chooses my path." Clara discovered, through her lawyer, that Miguel was facing problems at the restaurant. The personal expenses scandal exposed by her reached the owner's ears, and Miguel lost his job. Inés, according to rumors, was already with someone else, leaving Miguel alone. Clara felt no pleasure in his fall, only silent justice. One night, organizing the studio, Clara found a letter from Rafael, left in the mailbox. He apologized for the party and said that Miguel had hidden more things, something about another woman, someone from his past. Clara held the letter, her heart racing. Part of her wanted to tear it up, let the past die. But the new, braver Clara kept it, deciding that she would read it when she was ready. "I'm not going to chase ghosts," she told herself, looking at the tagus. "My story is now." Clara redecorated the house, changing curtains to bright tones, and planned an exhibition of her ceramics. Miguel's betrayal no longer defined her. She was Clara, a ceramicist, a woman, free, and that was enough. 2 years later, Clara walked through Mercado da Ribeira, the Lisbon sun warming her skin. His studio in Chiado was now a reference point, with cues to buy his golden cracked ceramics. Each piece told a story of breakage and repair, like itself. The house in Alfama, redecorated with bright colors, pulsed with the laughter of friends and dinners that Clara organized, without the weight of the past. She didn't open Rafael's letter. One day, on impulse, he threw it into the tagus, letting Miguel's secret sink. "I didn't need more truths to move forward. I found out from Marta that Miguel had moved to Porto, trying to start over, but Clara didn't care. He was a distant echo." One afternoon, while molding a new vase, Rafael appeared in the studio, bringing a fado record as a gift. Hesitantly, he asked for coffee. "You look different, Clara." "Lighter," he said, smiling. "I learned to carry only what is good for me," she replied, her eyes shining. There were no promises between them, just an easy, open conversation. Clara wasn't looking for love, but she was ready for whatever came, without rushing. That night, she hung a new pottery on the wall, a circle with intertwined lines, symbolizing her strength. Looking at the tagus from the window, he smiled. "I'm enough," he whispered. Lisbon, with its fados and tiles, hugged Clara, and she, finally, hugged herself back. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help us and tell us where you watch us from.